Long ago, in ancient Greece, there was a city called Athens, famous for its culture, democracy, and wisdom. But Athens lived under a terrible threat. Every 9 years, it had to send 7 young men and 7 maidens as tribute to King Minos of Crete, the most powerful of the Greek kings. What fate awaited these innocent young men? Nothing less than to be devoured by the Minotaur, a half-man, half-bull beast that lived in the center of a labyrinth built by the ingenious architect Daedalus. No one had ever managed to escape from this infernal labyrinth. But one day, a brave hero dared to defy that cruel fate. His name was Theseus, the son of King Aegeus of Athens. This is the story of his incredible adventure, of his confrontation with the Minotaur, and of how he changed forever the destiny of Athens and all of Greece. Theseus was a strong, intelligent, and brave young man who had grown up in the city of Trachene, south of Athens. His mother was Etra, the daughter of King Pythias, but his father was not present. Etra had told him that his father was a great king who had left a sword and sandals under a huge rock, and that only he could lift it when he grew up. So Theseus, since he was a child, trained hard to achieve it. And one day when he was 16 years old, he succeeded. He lifted the rock with ease and found the sword and the sandals. They were the signs that his father was Aegeus, the king of Athens. Theseus decided to go to meet him and set out on the journey to the capital. But the road was not easy. There were many dangers and monsters that stalked the travelers. Theseus could have taken the safest route by sea, but he chose the most difficult one, by land, to prove his courage. Thus, he faced several enemies, such as the bandit Periphetes, who beat his victims with a huge club, the giant Sino, who stretched the travelers until he split them in half, the witch Medea, who tried to poison him, and the bull of Marathon, who terrorized the peasants. Theseus defeated them all and arrived in Athens as a hero. Arriving in Athens, Theseus found the city in mourning and despair. It was time to send tribute to King Minos, and the young men chosen by lot were preparing to embark for Crete. Theseus learned the terrible story. Many years ago, the son of Minos, Androgeus, had participated in some athletic games in Athens and had won all the events. But the Athenians, jealous of his triumph, had murdered him. Minos, enraged, declared war on Athens and subdued it with his mighty fleet. As punishment, he demanded that every 9 years 14 young men be sent to him as food for the Minotaur, the monster born of the union of his wife, Pasiphae, and a white bull sent by the god Poseidon. The Minotaur lived in the Labyrinth, an intricate network of corridors and dead-end rooms designed by Daedalus, the most skilled of craftsmen. No one knew how to enter or exit the labyrinth, and the Minotaur fed on the young men who were thrown into it. Theseus was outraged by this injustice and decided to put an end to it. He presented himself to his father, King Aegeus, and revealed his identity. Aegeus recognized him by his sword and sandals and embraced him with joy. But when Theseus told him that he wanted to go to Crete as one of the tributaries and face the Minotaur, Aegeus was horrified. He begged him not to do it, that it was madness, that he had no chance of survival. But Theseus was determined. He told his father to trust him, and that if he returned victorious, he would exchange the black sails of his ship for white ones as a sign of his triumph. Aegeus resigned, accepted, and gave him his blessing. Thus Theseus embarked with the other 13 young men, ready to face the greatest challenge of his life. The journey to Crete was long and sad. The young men went weeping and wailing, knowing that certain death awaited them. But Theseus encouraged them and told them not to lose hope, that he had a plan to defeat the Minotaur and escape from the labyrinth. Arriving in Crete, they were greeted by King Minos, who looked down on them. He told them that the next day they would be taken to the Labyrinth, and there they would meet their end. But then, something unexpected happened. Minos' daughter Ariadne took notice of Theseus and fell in love with him at first sight. She was a beautiful and kind-hearted young woman who hated the cruelty of her father and her half-brother, the Minotaur. So that night, she approached Theseus and offered her help. He told him that he knew the secret of the labyrinth and that he could give him a way out of it. He handed him a ball of thread and told him to tie it to the entrance and unwind it as he went through the labyrinth. That way he could find his way back, following the thread. Theseus thanked her for her help and promised that if she managed to get out, he would take her with him to Athens. Ariadne wished him luck and kissed him goodbye. The next day, Theseus and the other young men were led into the labyrinth. Theseus tied the thread to the entrance and went in first, followed by the others. The labyrinth was a dark and silent place, full of nooks and crannies and traps. Theseus advanced cautiously, looking for the Minotaur and avoiding getting lost. The other young men followed him, trusting him. After a long walk, Theseus heard a terrible roar, which made his blood run cold. It was the Minotaur, who had smelled them and was approaching them. Theseus told the others to stand still and to wait for his signal. He prepared for combat, wielding his sword. The Minotaur appeared before him, and it was a hideous creature, with the body of a man and the head of a bull, with sharp horns and huge teeth. The Minotaur lunged at Theseus, but Theseus dodged it and struck it in the side. The Minotaur roared in pain and attacked again, more furious. Theseus and the Minotaur fought for a while, exchanging blows and wounds. Theseus was more agile, but the Minotaur was stronger. It seemed that neither could defeat the other. But then Theseus saw an opportunity. The Minotaur had become distracted and had let his guard down. Theseus seized that moment and plunged his sword into its heart. The Minotaur fell to the ground and let out a final roar. Theseus had defeated the Minotaur and had freed the young men of Athens. He told them to follow him and not to let go of the thread. Following the thread, Theseus and the others managed to get out of the labyrinth and reach the entrance. There Ariadne was waiting for them, who was happy to see them. She helped them escape from the palace and reach the port, where the ship that had brought them was. Theseus told Ariadne to get on the ship and to go with him to Athens. Ariadne agreed and said goodbye to her father, King Minos, and to her island, Crete. Theseus and Ariadne set sail, along with the other young people, for Athens. But the journey was not as happy as they had hoped. On the way, they stopped on the island of Naxos, where Theseus had a dream. In the dream, the god Dionysus spoke to him and told him that Ariadne was his, and that he should leave her on the island. Theseus woke up and was confused. He did not know if the dream was a divine command or a proof of his love, but finally, he decided to obey the god and leave Ariadne on the island while she slept. Theseus boarded the ship and set sail for Athens without looking back. But in doing so, he made a serious mistake. He forgot to change the black sails for white ones as he had promised his father. Meanwhile, in Athens, King Aegeus was anxiously awaiting his son's return. Every day he climbed a hill from where he could see the sea and looked for Theseus's ship. One day he saw a ship approaching and was filled with hope. But when he saw that the sails were black, he was filled with grief. He thought that his son had died and that the ship was bringing the sad news. He could not bear the suffering and threw himself into the sea, taking his own life. The sea was dyed red with his blood, and since then it has been called the Aegean Sea in his memory. Theseus arrived in Athens and learned of the tragedy. He felt guilty and desolate, and wept bitterly for the death of his father. But he also felt proud to have accomplished his mission, and to have freed Athens from the tribute to Crete. He became the new king of Athens and ruled with wisdom and justice. he honored his father and the other heroes with games and feasts. And so Theseus became one of the greatest heroes of Greek mythology. And his story has been told from generation to generation, right down to the present day.